Hello, this is Annie Sprinkles with your Daily Scoop. Today is Thursday, March 24th. And a little bit ago, I put a post up about an annual Family Day event that's coming up here on Saturday, April 16th at Highland Park. And a little background here, I serve on a few different committees, and I know I mentioned in earlier scoops that April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, which is, one of many crimes that fall under the Coalition for Crime Victims of Monroe County, and that's a committee that I serve on, and the primary function is to recognize National Crime Victims' Rights Week, which is April 10th to the 16th this year. Every year there's a national theme, and this year it's in honor of serving victims, building trust, and restoring hope. And the Coalition for Crime Victims of Monroe County, every year, this is, I want to say, I'm not going to wager to guess. They've been doing it a long, long time. And it's normally a walk, and it's a real short walk. And this year, they're eliminating the walk, but what they're doing is they're expanding the event at the end of the walk, which is always at Highland Park. And this year, they've invited many agencies that serve victims and survivors of crime. So that includes, not just domestic violence and sexual assault, which we talk about here on the Daily Scoop, but I also talk about trauma a lot. And it doesn't always have to be domestic violence or sexual assault, even though it intersects with trauma of some of these other crimes. Clearly, we can't ever forget child abuse. DWI homicides, that's traumatic. Elder abuse, homicide in the community. It could be any other form of homicide. It could be an attack on someone at work or in a restaurant. So this is where we come into play in terms of the Coalition for Crime Victims. So each year, they organize this event honoring victims and survivors. And this happens to be the event that Jim performs his harmony song at every year. So it's the lyrics are on the back of the program, and people have really come to know the song and wait for it. So he'll kick things off here on Saturday, April 16th. It's from 10 to 1. And it even is going a little bit longer this year because they're going to have some more cool stuff there. So check my Facebook post. There is a flyer with all the details. But mark your calendar for that upcoming event in April. And so today's scoop, really, I'm just going to tell you about a few events and community things and resources that you'll have here if you need them. So it's not going to be so much stories today or myths and facts. I just want to tell people about some things that maybe they want to put on their calendar and participate in, because if you're tuning in and you've been listening to the Daily Scoop, then you are learning a lot. So you can meet the people that work at some of the agencies that support victims and pick up some information. Okay, so you also have been hearing me talk a lot about, let me just back up for a second. I'll let you know some of the agencies specifically that are going to be there, because they are not on the flyer. So there will be representation from the FBI, the New York State Police, Monroe County Sheriffs, Rochester Police Department, Greece Police, Gates Police. There's going to be Bavona will be there, Lifespan, Willow, Stop DWI, Rock the Peace, Restore, somebody from the District Attorney's Office, Angels of Mercy, Villa of Hope, SPCC, So numerous agencies will be represented there on April 16th. So I would like to encourage everybody. It's a free event. Wegmans donates cookies and water, and they get coffee, and you know it's usually a pretty small but mighty crowd. So it's a very moving event, and it's just a great day to bring the community together and recognize and support victims of crime. All of these types of crime, by the way, that I already mentioned: child abuse, domestic violence, DWI, elder abuse, homicide, and sexual assault, to name some that fall under that particular coalition that I'm part of. Okay, so you've also heard me talk a lot about the ACE study, or ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences, and we're going to talk more about this in future scoops. But I also want to let people know that there is also being sponsored actually by the Department of Public Safety, Stop DWI, and another coalition in our community called Healthy Communities, Healthy Youth, and it's a 7-town alliance. Brighton, Pittsburgh, Fairport, Penfield, Honeoye Falls, Webster, Rush, and Rieta, and they're adding more and more. But these two collaborating partner groups are sponsoring a free event. There are 500 spaces. You have to register. It is free. It's going to be at Monroe Community College at Building 4 Theater, 1000 East Henrietta Road. Parking is available also, free parking in Lot F. It's April 13th from 3 to 5 p.m. And this is also being sponsored by the county because it's part of National Crime Victims' Rights Week. So they're inviting school personnel, anybody from the community, healthcare providers, anybody within these agencies that serve victims, of course, and survivors. But most of all, it's open to the community and it's free. And I would just like to let people know that you will get an introduction to the ACE study here. You'll learn, what are ACEs, why are ACEs significant, and what's the relationship here with toxic stress and some of these things that kind of fester with people in their own lives. So, and then also a little bit on resilience and research and hope and possibility. And you've already heard a lot of scoops that talk about that. My personal story the other day. So, anyways, that's really cool. So anybody that could do that from 3 to 5 on April 13th, go ahead and go on and register. There is, let me see. Let me just give you this phone number. To register, contact Jeannie at 753-3011. And, or you can contact the Healthy Youth Alliance, or you can contact the Department of Safety, Stop DWI. Okay, so there is some information about another event that folks are welcome to register for and attend. And there's another really big event. I'm on this other committee, which is part of the Domestic Violence Consortium. That's made up of about 50 agencies that serve survivors and victims of domestic violence in many different ways across all of these same agencies that we just talked about, but specifically to domestic violence. So I serve on one of the committees that's part of this consortium, and it's the Community Action Committee. And you've heard me talk in previous scoops about some of the legislative work I do. I go to this annual event in Albany. It's Legislative Awareness Day. There's a rally. We have preset appointments with assemblymen and senators, and we specifically address bills that relate to victim safety and offender accountability. And we try to educate them in these meetings about why it's really important for them to understand what these bills mean and why we need them to support them, sponsor them, and help get them passed. So this event is coming up here, and this is, of course, it's not open to the public, but I represent, the community, and what I do is, I get informed, and I'm part of, working with the New York State Coalition Against Domestic Violence and this local community action committee, and we organize every year an annual legislative breakfast. And what we do is we convene expert speakers, and we talk specifically about domestic violence legislation. And we talk about the current legislation that we are trying to get passed, and then we give them, the legislators and law enforcement, an overview of the laws that passed in 2015 that were most likely due to a lot of our advocacy efforts across the state. So, and during times like Legislative Awareness Day every year. So this breakfast is coming up on April 8th, and I will be participating for, a number of years now in a row here. And some of the legislation that we're trying to address this year, when we go before our legislators, well, first of all, we inform them at this big breakfast. And then in May, we go before them and have formal meetings where we discuss it, and we really try to get a commitment on their support. Okay, so some of the ones that we're looking at are a bill for victims of domestic violence that prohibit employers from discriminating against victims of domestic violence. It almost passed last year, but there was some verbiage and language in the definition that wasn't clear, so it has to be revisited. It also is going to require companies to allow victims of domestic violence to cancel contracts when there's a domestic violence incident report or a police report, an order of protection, or a signed affidavit. Okay, so this is just some of the other things that we're trying to get some support on over these next coming months. So we're trying to get courts, require courts to review domestic violence bail applications, and that'll provide, that persons that are arrested for domestic violence forfeit their bail if they violate an order of protection. And we're also trying to get a bill passed where it's related to orders to surrender weapons and require the surrender of weapons following a conviction of a certain, domestic violence misdemeanor cases. So we're trying to get that one passed. It's a tough one given the political climate right now. Although it's like a no-brainer to people who have personal experience with gun violence, but that just understand what the bill really means. So either way, we probably will have difficulty getting support on that one. And then let's see. So those are some of the ones that we're trying to get passed, and then of course we're also working real hard, and you even see this in the news, bills relating to teen dating violence education programs, requiring those in schools and districts, and to create policies and procedures, because there really aren't any specific guidelines, or requirements around that. So we're trying to push for stronger legislation on stuff like that. So anyway, so those are some of the other things I get involved in, and I'll continue to share updates and inform people through the Daily Scoop on stuff like this, okay, as it comes up. So I just want to remind people, and I'll post these numbers on my Daily Scoop, but I like people to have the local phone numbers for resources. So if you know somebody that might be able to use some of these services, or something resonates with you and you just have questions, please reach out. Most of them have 24/7 hotlines, so somebody's usually available to talk. Okay, so that is going to be your Daily Scoop for the day. For folks who do celebrate Easter, happy Easter coming up this weekend. And today's flavor is going to be chocolate peanut butter.